Hello, it's Jim Hutchins for the Jerusalem Connection Spot Report for this week. Well, the world, at least the civilized world, is still reeling under the terrorist attack that took place in Paris. It was godless, lawless, barbaric. There's no question about it. But the question that faces the civilized world now, and that includes the United States, is what in the world are we going to do about it? I want to read some excerpts from an article by Judith Bergman. She's a writer, a columnist, a lawyer, and a political analyst. But I think she nails it as to the political failure of our politicians to do anything about this. She says one of the most surprising aspects of the terrorist attacks in Paris on Friday the 13th, incidentally, on Friday night is how deeply shocked members of the European political establishment appeared to be. Although the writing has literally been on the wall in blood for the past decade and a half, the West, especially Europe, and the United States included, since 9/11, and certainly since this administration has been in power, the West, Europe, United States continues to be taken aback every time a new terror attack occurs, as if each one were the first. After 9/11 in the United States, the 2004 Madrid train bombing, which killed nearly 200 and wounded 2,000, and the 2005 attacks on London's transit system, where 56 people were killed, 700 wounded, world leaders have no conceivable excuse left to be shocked and surprised at mass terrorism occurring in the midst of Western capitals. She goes on, the integration of hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants to Europe and anticipated in the United States. This is no longer possible in light of the number and of already existing parallel societies. What's a parallel society? A parallel society refers to Muslim communities that have little or no contact with the rest of the society in their host countries. According to an intelligence document obtained from a German newspaper, quote, we are importing Islamic extremism, Arab anti-Semitism, national and ethnic conflicts of other peoples, as well as a different understanding of the society and law. The terrorist attacks in Paris, listen to this, are the direct and deplorable result of political cowardice and inertia. Politicians are unable or unwilling to name the problems by their rightful name. The politicians have been shying away from engaging with the enormous security and social problems that Muslim immigration into Europe and to the West has caused and will continue to cause. The worst is yet to come. It's going to get worse before it gets worse. In the face of Islamic terrorism that the West has been experiencing for more than a decade, the current generation of political leaders has exhibited an irresponsibility and a lack of leadership that is almost infantile. Babies could do better than this in responding to terrorism. It's almost infantile by allowing unchecked Muslim immigration to Europe and anticipation in the United States with its free and open borders. The question is whether the terrorist attacks in Paris will finally amount to a wake-up call for the West political establishment. And that is a huge question, because this administration has shown no signs of the terrorist attacks getting their attention. 12 hours before Paris took place, the president has said Al-Qaeda is constrained. Al-Qaeda is not constrained by any means. And not only is this a disgrace that our politicians have led us into by not doing what they ought to do, that same disgrace, I would suggest, rests upon our shepherds. Our shepherds who have spiritually shut their mouths concerning this issue. And why have they done that? Well, many of them don't have a coherent understanding of the end times. There are different views of what's to take place in the order, the sequence of events. But if you don't have if our shepherds don't have a coherent understanding of the end times, they need to get it, and they need to get it now, for the sake of the people that they have been called to shepherd. They're sticking to political correctness when it comes to dealing with our enemies. And I will tell you, quite frankly, from my experience is that there are many Arab believers that we're going to spend eternity with them in heaven. They know Christ. They've committed their lives to Christ, but they still carry anti-Zionist and anti-Semitic baggage against Israel. And Israel is going to be the epicenter of where all this takes place. The rest of the world is going to reverberate according to the scriptures as to what takes place in Jerusalem. As a matter of fact, Jesus says this in John chapter 16. In fact, he says, the time is coming when anyone who kills you will think he's offering service to God. Now that's the mantra of jihadists. That's the mantra of radical Islam. To kill the infidels, the Jews and the Christians. They'll do such things because they have not known the Father or me. Matthew says this in Matthew chapter 24, verse 21. For then there will be great distress, great tribulation, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. The elect, that's believers. For the sake of believers, this unprecedented affliction and tribulation will be cut short. So what are we to do? Well, I think Luke sums it up in Luke chapter 21, verse 36. Be always on the watch. This is what the shepherds should be teaching to the congregations. Be always on the watch, looking out, praying, that you may be able, that you may have the strength to escape all that is about to happen, and that you may be able to stand before the Son of Man when he comes. What we see in Paris is going to be exponentially increased in the days ahead. And the shepherds of the true believers will be held accountable for how they instruct and prepare those who are in their flocks. May God help you, shepherds. Until next week, Od Ki Yavo, until Messiah comes, Yivareka Yahweh. Yahweh bless you. Yahweh bless those you love and those who love you.